She looked me straight in the eye and said, "This isn't your child. I'm leaving you for him." But she didn't expect the DNA test to show the same thing. When he kicked her out in the middle of the night, she called me crying and begging, "What have I done?" I simply replied, "He's not my child and it's no longer my problem. Let's start over." I landed at John F. Kennedy Airport just after midnight, and the lights of New York shone on the horizon like a promise. But I wasn't thinking about the horizon. I was thinking about her, Madison, my wife, 30 years old, with a freckled smile that made me believe in eternity. After 8 months of service overseas, all I wanted was to hold her and breathe in the vanilla scent she wore when she made garlic pasta on Saturdays. We had plans. The night before I left, she cried and whispered that as soon as I got back, we would start trying for a baby. But nothing could have prepared me for what actually happened. I opened the door to our apartment, dropped my bag, and the first thing that struck me wasn't her embrace. It was the smell, not the cozy aroma of dinner or her perfume, but something completely different, cheap cologne, musty and pungent. And then I saw him. Tyler, 35, a colleague from my previous job before I joined the service, loud, tasteless, always overly friendly. The type who tells jokes that make people uncomfortable and believes he is a gift from God to women. He stood in my living room like he owned the place. In his dirty sneakers on the carpet I had saved up for, mocking every memory I had made with Madison. She sat on the couch, clearly pregnant. My heart, stupid as ever, skipped a beat and then broke into 1,000 pieces. "Ryan," she said in a steady voice, "we need to talk." I didn't say anything. I just stared at her belly, then at Tyler. It was like I'd been hit over the head, 5 months pregnant. I'd been in the Army for 8 months. It wasn't mine. She continued, "It's Tyler's. I'm leaving you." Tyler stepped forward, trying to look sympathetic. "Look, I know this is awful." I didn't hear the rest. I was too focused on the maternity shirt she was wearing, the one I had ordered 2 months ago to surprise her. I imagined her opening it, smiling, maybe even crying. "I need you to sign the divorce papers," Madison added, sliding the envelope across the coffee table. I nodded, just nodded. No yelling, no tears, just a cold numbness covering me like snow on a battlefield. I walked past them into the bedroom. Half of my closet was gone, and the other half was piled high with her maternity clothes. And God help me, Tyler's gym bag. She hadn't erased me from her life. She had ruthlessly replaced me. "The rent is in my name," I said, returning. "So is the electricity and Wi-Fi. You both need to move out by the end of the month." Madison snorted. "You're kicking me out? I'm pregnant." I said, as calmly as I could, "No. You're leaving me, not the other way around." Tyler tried to argue. "Hey man, we just need some time." "You had 8 months to plan this," I said, my hands shaking again. I clenched them into fists in my pockets. "Pack your things," I added, looking at Madison. "And leave." She looked at me, stunned. I didn't beg or yell. I could see her trying to paint me as unstable, but I didn't give her the satisfaction. They left, and I was left alone in the silence. I walked over to what was supposed to be the nursery and sank to the floor against the yellow wall, pressing my hands against my face. I didn't cry or scream. I just sat there, surrounded by the wreckage of my dreams, feeling the betrayal that had emptied me. But I didn't stay broken for long. They believed it was over, a clean break, a happy ending for them. But I had only just begun to write my part of the story. The next morning, I woke up in an apartment that resembled a crime scene, not because of blood or violence, but because something very precious had been destroyed, and the culprit had left with a smile on her face. Madison thought she could just walk away, with another man's child in her womb, and treat our marriage like a hotel bill. She believed I would melt like sugar in tea. She didn't understand that the man she had betrayed was trained to think clearly in critical situations. My heart was bleeding, yes, but my mind, it was sharpened like a blade. By 10 a.m., I was sitting in the office of Raymond Lasker, the most ruthless divorce lawyer in Manhattan. His office smelled of paper and power. I laid it all out for him, without emotion, just the facts. He leaned back in his chair, impressed. "You're impressively calm." I stared at the diploma on his wall. "Emotions are a luxury I can't afford right now." He nodded. "Let's win." The next 48 hours were a list of cold revenge. First, the money. We had a joint savings account, $23,100. I transferred exactly half, $11,550, to a new personal account. I didn't take a penny more. I wasn't trying to steal. I just wanted to get out of it clean. Then the credit card. I was the primary holder. I logged in, flagged the card as compromised, and ordered a new one to be delivered only to my new address, the Airbnb I had discreetly booked for the next 6 weeks. I wasn't going to watch her and Tyler live in my apartment, spend my money, sleep in the bed where I once dreamed of starting a family. Then it was time for the streaming services. Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, Spotify. Petty? Maybe. But it wasn't about the TV. It was about putting an end to it. My life was no longer financing theirs. I switched to renting, sending an email to the property management company to let them know that I would be the sole occupant until the end of the lease. I asked for only the $2,800 security deposit back. I paid my share, not hers. On the third day, the calls started. Madison left a voicemail. I took the fifth message. "Ryan," she said sharply, "my card was declined at Babytown." "What did you do?" I stared at the crack in the Airbnb ceiling. "The card is blocked. A new one is on its way." "You can't just cut me off. We're getting divorced. We can't share finances." "You have a new partner now," I said. "Tyler, right? I'm sure he can pay the bill." She fell silent. "He already paid the deposit on our new apartment," she muttered, "but he can't cover all the expenses." "You should have planned better," I said and hung up. The next call was from Tyler. At first, he tried to appease me. "Hey, man, I understand. You're hurting. But you have to support Madison. She's carrying my child." I ignored him. 2 days later, another message arrived. "This isn't mature. You need to get your act together. Grow up." I replied, "Take all financial matters up with my lawyer. His number is in your contacts. Good luck." But I hadn't played my last card yet. It came from Tyler's sister, Haley. A nurse, smart, practical. I'd always liked her. After hearing Tyler's side of the story, she sent me a message expressing her concern. I called her. "Are you okay?" she asked gently. "I don't know," I replied, my voice trembling slightly. "It just doesn't add up. Madison said the affair started 4 months ago, but based on the due date, the math doesn't work out. She's further along." Silence. "I must have mixed up the dates," I added. "Military service messes with your head." But I knew exactly what I was doing. I wasn't accusing her. I was planting the idea. Haley knew biology. She understood the chronology of events. She would start asking questions that Tyler wasn't prepared to answer. It was the beginning of the end. 4 days later, Tyler called me. His voice was hoarse and shaky. "You knew everything," he shouted, "and you let me get myself into this." I took the phone away from my ear and blinked. "Tyler," I said calmly, "you knew all along and you got me into this." The dates didn't match, so I had to take a test, a legal one. The results came in today, and I was waiting. "It's not my child," he growled. "It's not mine." The realization didn't hit me like a punch, but washed over me slowly, like thunder. "Who is she?" Ryan barked. "Do you know who she was with besides me?" I let the silence hang in the air. "You need to talk to Madison about that," I replied quietly. Not me. He shouted something incoherent and hung up. I put down the phone, my hands shaking, not from fear or triumph, but from the adrenaline rush after a long silent war. That was it, the beginning of the end. An hour later, Madison called. I missed 5 calls, but answered the 6th on speakerphone. He kicked me out, she sobbed, struggling to get the words out. He threw my bags out onto the sidewalk. He yelled at me in front of the neighbors. I don't know where to go. I'm pregnant. I imagined her, weeks ago, cold and ruthless in our living room, now abandoned at a stranger's doorstep with her bags at her feet. The future she had built was crumbling before her eyes, and now she was asking for help. Come get me, she begged. This is all your fault. It's all your fault. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My fault? I asked, not believing my ears. You cheated on me, got pregnant, lied to me, left me, lied to him, got caught, and now, because I didn't beg you to stay after you ruined everything, it's my fault? She sobbed even harder. Please. I have no family here. My parents are in Indiana. I can't handle this alone. You have to help me. I looked around my apartment. It was quiet, clean, and for the first time in years, it was mine. No chaos, no need to tiptoe around, just peace. That's not my child, Madison, I said, each word a final nail in the coffin. And you made sure that it wasn't my problem anymore. Silence. I hate you, she whispered. I know, I replied. And on Monday, I'm filing for divorce. My lawyer will be in touch with you. I hung up and stood still for a moment, staring at the wall. The ghost of our marriage hung in the air for a brief second. I allowed myself to breathe just once for the man I once was. A husband, a man of faith. Then I deleted her number, deleted Tyler's number, and opened my mailbox. I had a letter from the property manager confirming my move-out date and the return of my $2,800 security deposit. All loose ends had been neatly tied up. Madison and Tyler believed they were playing a game, but they didn't realize I had written the rules. 6 months later, I stood on the balcony of my new apartment in Chicago with a cup of coffee in my hand, watching the city come to life under a soft orange sky. It felt like I was somewhere far away, as if I had new skin that hadn't had time to settle yet. But it was mine. The chaos was gone, and in its place was something I had almost forgotten how to appreciate. Peace. The divorce went quietly. No courtroom drama, no long, drawn-out battles. Just a stack of signed and sealed documents. Madison's lawyer, if you can call him that, had no arguments. She tried to get alimony, but my lawyer calmly presented evidence of her affair, her work history, and the confusion surrounding the paternity of her children. Her request was denied in less than 5 minutes. I walked away with everything I had before the marriage, and the rest was divided without complications, no strings attached. I haven't spoken to her since that last phone call, but the universe has a way of whispering stories we try to ignore. Through a mutual friend, I learned that she had returned to Indiana and was living in her childhood bedroom. Her parents, to put it mildly, were not thrilled. Their once independent daughter, who had boasted about her career, was now a single mother, abandoned by 2 men and betrayed by a third. The real father was neither me nor Tyler. It was Brian, her married colleague, with whom she had spent one drunken night before meeting Tyler. When the paternity test showed that Tyler was not his son, she turned to Brian, but he denied everything. He hired a lawyer and told her that if she ever contacted him again, he would sue her. He had a wife and 3 children, and he made it clear that a child conceived in a drunken stupor would not destroy his family. Madison was left with nothing. No man, no love, no money, no one willing to help her. Justice? There was none. Only the final stop on the road she had paved for herself. Tyler, on the other hand, was a different kind of loser. Once loud and cocky, he had become a ghost. Rumors spread quickly around the office. He was ridiculed. "Not the dad, Tyler," became a whispered joke in the break room. He quit his job, moved to another city, and the last I heard, he was paranoid and obsessed with loyalty. On our second date, he demanded to see the phones of the women I was dating. The betrayal devastated him. He believed I had broken him, but in reality, he had simply walked into a fire that he and Madison had started together. A month after the divorce, I received a final letter from Madison. The subject line read, "I hope you're happy." I probably shouldn't have opened it, but I did. It was long, rambling, and delusional. Madison poured out all her suffering, her living conditions, her sleepless nights, her crying baby, the judgmental looks at church, and how her mother now looked at her like she was damaged goods. She blamed me for everything. She said I had turned her life to ashes. She said I was cold and let her burn when I could have pulled her out of the flames. But the thing is, I tried. Before she ruined everything, I would have walked through fire for her. But now I just walked away. I kept the letter, didn't respond, didn't smile, didn't gloat. I just sipped my coffee and checked the soil around my tomatoes. I once read that trauma doesn't shape you. It reveals you. In the silence that followed Madison's storm, I began to understand who I really was. Not the man she broke, not the husband she betrayed, but a man hardened by fire, a man who survived without losing himself. I started small, a new city, a new life, a place where every inch didn't whisper memories. I didn't take much with me, just books, clothes, an old leather chair, things that still felt like mine. The mornings were cold. I made coffee and stood by the window, looking at a city that didn't know me, didn't pity me, didn't care about me. And it was strangely comforting. There were nights when I replayed moments in my head, her laughter, her fingers intertwined with mine while watching movies, the first time she looked at children's clothes on the internet. I let those memories hurt me, then I let them go. They say that breakups happen in conversations, but for me, it happened in silence. I stopped talking about her. I stopped believing in revenge because revenge isn't a moment. It's the whole life I rebuilt without her. I got a promotion at work, became a team leader in logistics, and made real friends. Not the kind who smile when they sleep with your wife. I started working out hard at the gym, not because I wanted to show off, but because I wanted to control something, anything. I called my mom and spent the weekend with my niece, laughing for the first time in years. And then one day it happened. I was walking home from the store on a warm summer evening, the breeze blowing against my face. I passed a young couple arguing happily about something trivial. And I didn't feel bitter, I didn't feel pain, I just felt hope. Madison wanted me to break. Tyler wanted me to fight. But I didn't give either of them what they wanted. I gave myself what I needed. That's the deepest revenge. To live well. To thrive. To become someone better than the person who walked into that apartment a few months ago with hope in his heart and a bag on his shoulder. I'm not that person anymore. I'm the person who survived him. And I'm proud of that. I don't know what the future holds, but I know one thing. If she ever sees a photo of me smiling and standing with my head held high, maybe with someone new holding my hand, she'll understand. She'll understand that I didn't just move on. I rose above it, above the lies, above the pain, above the ruins she left behind. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't proving they were wrong. It's never needing them.